So this past weekend, I shot a one-day assignment for the New York Times, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to just sort of break it down with you guys, the entire process, and share some pictures along the way. I'm Justin Mott, and if you're new here, my channel is dedicated to all things photography from the perspective of a full-time working pro. So, okay, details about the shoot. It was in Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, if that's how you know it. I'm based in Hanoi. It's about a 2-hour flight for me down there. The story was about people leaving the USA because they're worried about Trump being reelected. My part of the story was photographing a transgender woman named Freya who moved from Utah to Vietnam along with her partner because they feared for their safety in the States if Trump got reelected. So it's a rather interesting story, a sad story, and even a sensitive story, one that needed to be handled with care. The writer had already interviewed Freya, found her on Reddit, where she was talking about this issue, and she was willing to be photographed for the piece, so the photo editor basically reached out to me, asked me if I was interested in the story, gave me a little bit of the details, but in this case, I didn't get the full story ahead of time. Sometimes I get the full story, very rare, I'll work with the writer. Sometimes I just get a brief synopsis of the story. In this case, that's what happened, and then a few shots that they needed me to get. And then they'll tell me the deadline, I'll tell them if I'm available or not, and also if I'm interested or not. And because I have a good relationship with my editors, I usually can sort of pitch the amount of days that I might need. So the shot list for this was pretty straightforward. Portraits of Freya at her home, with and without her partner, Ellison, some exterior shots of their home, and some neighborhood shots, both with and without them in it. So I figured I could get a nice variety of images in about 4 to 5 hours. That would be just enough time to get what I needed, while hopefully not taking up too much of their time and eating up too much of their day, or making them too uncomfortable out in the Saigon heat. I could have stretched this into a fly-in one day and shoot the next day and fly back that day type of thing, but I decided to knock it out all in one go because I've got construction here at my house, so that meant flying down early in the morning, leaving my house at about 5:30 a.m. and then taking the red-eye back that night. So I asked to meet them about 2 o'clock at their home. I figured if I shot from 2 to 6, that would at least give me some shots in good light during the sunset. I like to plan carefully. I figured so 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. inside in bad light in their apartment, that might work. And then 4 to 6 or 7 p.m. shooting outdoors in the neighborhood. And if we were lucky, we get some nice light and I get some nice pictures. And so when I arrived, I went right up to the apartment. There's really not a lot of time to waste. We chit-chatted for a bit. I let them know what to expect. I tried to make sure everyone felt comfortable. Told them at any point during the shoot, if they feel uncomfortable, they had an idea, you can talk to me, I'm easy. I like to be genuine with people. I like to be clear. I don't like to be pushy, and I want to make sure I'm thinking about them. I'm respecting their time, respecting them, and respecting them allowing me into their lives for a story like this. Also respecting my client, which is the New York Times, and the writer who spent time doing this story. I feel like I'm pretty good at reading people, see if they're comfortable or not, but I checked in with them regularly to make sure they were comfortable. I'm patient, I'm clear about what I want, and I usually like to progress with something easy first to get people warmed up in front of the camera because not everyone's comfortable. So for the indoor portraits, my go-to move is to turn off all the interior lights with their permission, of course, and I don't start moving things around or turning off lights without talking to people, telling them my intentions and asking them if it's okay. It's their house, always respect that. So I started with some shots of just Freya by the window. Her cat named Dragon came in for a couple of shots, got her comfortable, which was very natural, very comfortable in front of the camera. So I like to start with simple shots like that and then work my way up to more complex ones. But they were naturals, they were really fun, lighthearted people. We quickly moved on to some more intimate portraits of them together in the guest bedroom. That was just a nice clean shot by the window, and I figured I could focus on their intimacy and on their bond. So I don't like to over direct my portraits unless I really have to. So I just told them like, hey, just take a minute, sit down how you normally would, hang out in here, embrace how you naturally would. I'll even step outside for a minute, just get comfortable, sort of act like I'm not here. I'll actually leave so it actually will be like I'm not here. And then once I get settled, then I just sort of came in and just started taking pictures. And I just captured some shots of the two of them just hanging out. And I thought they were quite intimate. I was really happy with the moments that I captured. Just clean background, simple side light. And then every once in a while, just sort of jumping in and directing, saying like, okay, one of you is blocking the light. So getting side light. So if the light source is here and someone's here and the other person's right here, and they're blocking each other's light. So I had to stagger them a little bit, just played around with my 50mm lens and a couple shots with my 35 as well. After that, I let them settle naturally into their living room. Again, just like saying, hey, just act as if I'm not here. They naturally played with their cat, captured those moments. I worked that scene for a bit. There's some nice little moments in there with the cat. And then I took Freya out to the balcony because I thought the balcony really showed a little bit of Ho Chi Minh City, the outside, the architecture would bring people to Vietnam. Of course, I'm going to do that when I go outside as well, but I wanted some portraits in the house that could also convey that. And I felt the wires on the the balcony symbolized her situation in a way. Like, imagine not feeling safe in your own country and having to move all the way to Vietnam. It was sad. The way she put it to me is, this is not how I imagined my life, but they seem to be also happy and enjoying Vietnam as well. We talked a bit more inside. I jotted down some notes for my captions. Again, the writer will probably do most of the captions. The captions might just be simple, but I like to take my own notes. I like to ask good questions. I like to show people that I'm engaged, because I am. I want to learn about this story. I want to know as much as possible. They might tell me things that trigger ideas for me. They might say like, oh yeah, normally around this time we go have a tea. I might say, oh, cool, we'll just go do that and I'll document that. Like, it's genuine, I'm curious, but it also can give me some ideas, not just for my captions, but for shots as well. So then we headed outside. I wanted to bring the viewers to Saigon, to Vietnam. So I just shadowed them as they walked through their neighborhood, capturing natural moments. Ellison spoke Vietnamese quite well, so she was talking to some of the locals in there. I was trying to get as many natural moments as possible. Then buying tea. They wanted to go for noodles, so I got a nice shot there. Sat down for noodles, had a coffee, and again, I just hung out with them a little bit and then stepped back and took some pictures and just shot it extremely natural as I walked in the neighborhood, interacted with locals, and just getting enough. I want a nice range of portraits, some nice little moments in their house, and then bringing people to Vietnam as well. The light was playing games with me. It was coming and going behind a bunch of clouds. It started to get dark. I said my goodbyes and wandered around for some exterior shots of their building. That was on my list. So neighborhood shots without them, also on my list. Nothing too exciting there, but I did my best to make a boring high-rise look interesting. But it's on my shot list, so I have to do it. So I just kind of wandered the neighborhood. Lovely people, tough situation. Before they left, they complimented me how quickly I made them feel at ease, and that made me smile. I don't think about that often, but I do feel like it's one of my strengths as a photographer. It's not some secret trick. It just comes down to being polite, thoughtful, respectful, and a decent person. People let me into their lives. They trust me, and I honor that. Plus, I love what I do, so it all comes natural. I did a whole episode recently about making people more comfortable. I did a whole episode about the gear I use for the shoot as well, so I got like 3 videos out of this, which is good because these sort of editorial assignments don't really pay that much, but I love doing them because I like these type of stories and I find them fascinating, and this is really how I started my career. Plus, I also, even though they don't pay well, I love working for the New York Times, and I love the kind of stories that they do. So on my way to the airport in the taxi, I backed up my images. I had it all set up with my laptop, my card reader. Originally in the gear section, I talked about bringing my iPad instead of my laptop, but last minute, I actually decided to take my laptop instead. So I backed up all the images. On the flight, I actually edited quite a bit. It's a 2-hour flight. So I got in around 11:30 p.m. I was exhausted. I had most of the images edited now. I don't do a lot of retouching. It's just basically color balance. It's more the selecting the images that's hard. Probably took like 1,000 images total because I was working 2 cameras, working the scene, getting as much as I can. Maybe it was more like 700, I don't know. But I narrowed that down to about 52 images, I think. So the next morning, I spent a couple hours just captioning. Got to put in all the metadata correctly. Got to caption each image. Make sure I get all my facts right. Then upload everything to the server. Tell the editor I sent the images. Make sure they confirm that they received the images. And then sometimes I'll file my expenses that day. Of course, they pay for my flight, pay for transportation, pay for my food. It was a 1-day shoot, so it's not going to be great pay. Honestly, I just did a little thing about I actually get paid more on a commercial shoot to rent my own gear than I get paid to shoot an assignment for the New York Times. Not a knock on them so much. I mean, it's just the reality of the editorial world. I still like doing it. I still like that I can get different content like this. I like that I can tell interesting stories like this and play a small part in these stories, reaching the rest of the world or whoever's reading these stories nowadays. And since I'm filming this right after and it's still fresh in my mind, I'm not sure which images my editor will pick, but I'll drop a link to the story below so you can check it out. I'll end with my favorite 5 images and a big thank you to the New York Times and a thank you to Freya and Ellison for letting me into their lives for a few hours. They were very pleasant people, and I appreciate them letting me tell their story. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to check out my online store at askmott.com. I've got a variety of one-on-one classes, portfolio reviews, long-term mentorship, or just a 1-hour session. Anyone that's interested in elevating their photography game, learning from a pro, you can check all that out at askmott.com. I've also got my Northern Vietnam photography workshop in December this year, a few slots left, and it's an all-inclusive workshop. So once you get here, you pay for your flight, but once you get here, everything's included. You don't have to worry about anything. I mean, within reason, not like handing out likes, but. And here are my 5 favorite images. If you stay tuned to watch them, that's great. If not, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to have a wonderful day.